Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to day 2 here on the M42 main stage at the inaugural Abu Dhabi Global Healthcare Week. My name's Amandeep, and I'm thrilled to be your host over these action-packed 3 days. Not only are we here at ADNEC, in the heart of Abu Dhabi, the capital of the UAE, we are also broadcasting live across the world on our social media channels. So it's wonderful to see our audience here, to have you joining us live as well. We have an action-packed 3 days, and we've already started day 2, and we have a very exciting first session here. Breaking news, in fact, which refers to my former position as a BBC presenter. I'm really glad to have the breaking news to share with you all. Yesterday, we announced M42's advisory board being launched. We're excited to have world-renowned experts join us. And over 2 very exciting sessions, we're going to ask them to join us here on the stage and talk to us about their vision and explore some of the pressing and timely topical issues affecting the health landscape around the world. No pressure on my guests, but I know that they can live up to this challenge. Please do have your questions ready. We're going to make this as interactive and as dynamic as possible and ask you all to put your questions to our wonderful, illustrious speakers. So without further ado, may I please request our speakers to please join me on stage. I'm just going to request them to please sit under their seats for our wonderful photographs. Of course, first of all, to join me on stage is the Managing Director and Group CEO of M42 and Chairman of Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi, Hasan Jasem Al Nowais. Please give him a big round of applause. Good morning, Hasan, if I can ask you to. Fantastic. Dr. David Rue, the Global Chief Medical Officer at Microsoft. And Dr. James Mault, the CEO and Chairman of BiointelliSense. Please give them a big round of applause. Fantastic. It's so wonderful to have everybody here today. Please do take a seat, gentlemen. Now, before we launch into my questions about the advisory board, which is very exciting timing for us, I'm going to take this opportunity. I've had the delight of being on stage with Hasan on many occasions. First of all, at Arab Health. We had a wonderful time with the M42's main stage then. And then at the World Government Summit in Dubai earlier this year. Now we are in our home city, Abu Dhabi. I'm a proud resident here. And we are in the heart of the UAE. Allow me, please, to ask you a question to take us back to 2023. As a key founding member of M42, take us back to that vision. Why M42 and why now and why Abu Dhabi?
Thank you, Amandeep. Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
If I may ask you to put the mic all the way up.
Of course.
Thank you.
Maybe if I go back to the initiation of this journey, and thank you for the kind words, and maybe if I start by thanking my esteemed colleagues. It's an honor to have you with us here today. So M42 is, as some of you know, first of its kind powerhouse, which is the coming together of G42 healthcare and Mubadala Health. In other words, healthcare provision and healthcare technology. We go back again to the why. And everything we're going to talk about today is mainly driven by curiosity, which is what we believe drives us on a daily basis.
I love that word, curiosity, already a big key word for us.
And we have come to a realization that we want to be beneficial to the world through everything we have done in Abu Dhabi. From the data sets we have collected to the amount of insights we have, but more importantly, the technology that G42 Healthcare has come up with. And we are embarking on a very impactful, disruptive journey as we go. It will be a challenge, we know that. We have accepted to take on this challenge. We will go through it, we will learn from it, and we will come out on the other side with very positive results that will impact the world for sure. That being said, and maybe if I jump to the very important point, and one of the most important reasons why we're here today, curiosity has driven many things in the last 18 months. one of which was the establishment of the advisory board of M42. And it took us some time to actually convince the gentlemen to jump ship with us, and really for us to learn from what they've accumulated over the years. What they bring to the table is tremendous, invaluable, but will definitely benefit humanity. And that's what we will double down on in a few minutes.
Absolutely. So you mentioned some really key words for us there. Thank you for taking us back to the beginning of the journey, curiosity, benefiting humankind across the world, and this importance of data collection, which is a really wonderful point for me to bring in Dr. David Roux, Global Chief Medical Officer at Microsoft. Congratulations on your appointment here at the advisory board. Tell us that big, broad scope. Why did you decide to join the advisory board, and what do you hope to achieve with the team?
Well, I think it starts with a shared vision, and Hasan, Jim, myself, and several others were talking yesterday about how M42 works with other partners, and I feel like we all recognize that no one organization can solve all of healthcare's major challenges. By working together, though, through partnership, we have an opportunity to be able to do things that we could never have done before. And each of us brings our own set of capabilities. Microsoft, one of the things that we do have is a very strong technology infrastructure that allows us to be able to think about how the data can be managed securely, allow us to be able to ensure that people trust the platforms that it supports on. But on top of that, there's a whole series of different types of technologies that need to allow us to be able to enable data to move freely from different systems, interoperability. And then additionally, one thing we want to add is the newer capabilities that we have with artificial intelligence. And with AI being applied on data that are managed securely, we can do amazing things. We can solve some of those big challenges that we see in healthcare today.
So Dr. David Roux, you mentioned a really key big word there, trust. If I may bring in Dr. James Mault, the CEO and chairman of BiointelliSense. Again, congratulations on your appointment to the advisory board. Trust, it really is key when it comes to behavioral change, and also the issue that Hasan outlined there right at the beginning, the need to impactfully disrupt the health landscape.
Well, thank you. And to begin, I'd really want to express my gratitude and the honor of being a part of this advisory board. I think M42 is really quite unique in the world in having all of these elements, the genomics, the care delivery and the hospital systems, and then the health information exchange, which when you have the curiosity, this is the starting point to be able to find new ways to take better care of patients, which is really what we're all trying to accomplish. And my evolution came out of being a cardiothoracic surgeon, taking care of patients, and trying to find a better way to actually monitor those patients, which is generating data. And once we have that data easily, we can find insights, and now with AI, be able to advance the care of patients. But it's an interesting thing in healthcare, which is the conservative approach to do no harm. We're all trained as physicians to be cautious, to question new things with scrutiny and skepticism, but that also tends to delay, and many times, the adoption and embracement of something new and different. And so we have a lot of work ahead of us, not just in terms of technology, but developing that trust between the innovation and that curiosity, and patients and clinicians being willing to make the leap and what we call crossing the chasm.
And I think you're right, absolutely, there, Dr. James, to outline it's those two categories. It's the patients and the clinicians. It's not simply a case of you've already won over one group of people, which comes back to Hasan, you mentioned there, Dr. James, about this notion that M42 really is a one of its kind. It's changing the traditional ecosystem. So why embark on such an ambitious mission there, Hasan?
I will start with curiosity again. What we're seeing is more sicker patients all around the world. What we're seeing is a shortage of clinicians all around the world. What we're also seeing is healthcare expenditures becoming a big part of every country's GDP. And if we take simple statistics, building healthcare expenditure is building to become about $10 trillion for the next 3 to 5 years, which is close to 20% of almost every country's GDP, but closer to 30% of the US's GDP. It's not insignificant. So the only way to work around this is to embark on the technology journey, which is readily available. Now, building on Dr. Mault's point, trust, but then people have to accept, right, to adapt to technology. I understand culture shift is a big challenge to every one of us. We're human beings. But what we will need to demonstrate to people, it's not going to replace your jobs. On the contrary, it's going to complement what you're doing. It will be making things much more efficient. But for us to ensure that people continue to get care, this is the only way of doing it. 50% of the world's population do not have access to care today.
Which is shocking. Yeah.
Shocking, it's inhumane, injustice from our perspective. And as Abu Dhabi always has done it in the past and will continue to do, they want not only to take advantage of the resources they've been blessed with, but to share it with the rest of the world too. And Abu Dhabi, I don't think any other country, and in specificity, Abu Dhabi has been able to demonstrate the translation of capital to capability like Abu Dhabi. And we will continue to do that.
I love how you express that there. So the translation of capital to capability, that's extraordinary. You're absolutely right. There isn't another place on the planet. And my relationship with M42 began at the beginning of this year. I've had a chance to work with the wonderful, extraordinary team behind this particular event and the mission. You are a visionary leader, Hasan. There is something quite unique about M42 and unique about Abu Dhabi as well. On this note about the advisory board, why now? Why have you launched the company of these wonderful experts right now?
Everything we do is based on collaboration. And I'd like to underline and emphasize on the importance of collaboration, starting with our partnership with the Cleveland Clinic Foundation system, which has helped us bring healthcare to where it is today. Right? And that's something we're forever indebted to them for helping us with. But now it's the next part of our journey, right? And that is to take advantage of the experience the gentlemen have accumulated and selfishly learn from it, but also benefit from it locally and benefit the rest of the world as well.
Absolutely. And as you say, to take benefit of the expertise that we have on board. So on that note, Dr. David Rood, please do illuminate for our audience here who are with us. Some of them are very familiar with what you bring, and others joining us online might be new to it. So let's take this opportunity to celebrate when it comes to Microsoft's expertise and your personal expertise on this journey for M42.
So it might be worthwhile to just start with some global trends that are happening, and it's been happening over the past several decades. Traditionally, healthcare has been delivered by having people do many of the tasks, and it didn't really matter that we didn't have enough people to do many of the tasks because these things, we didn't have the huge demand. We're now starting to realize that the systems are not built for scale. And when you try to add more people, rising costs, the system starts breaking at the seams. And this is where technology can help. Technology can make things far more efficient. And we're starting to realize that we can address many of those challenges that we see in healthcare by applying technology into specific areas. So let me give you a few examples. So one of the things that we recognize is that there is an incredible amount of waste that is in the system, inefficiency. It's been estimated that about 25 to 33% of all total healthcare cost can be improved if we could remove and eliminate a lot of that inefficiency. And those inefficiencies occur because simply we have not figured out ways to streamline care. A good example would be if you imagine in an emergency department, in a busy emergency department, what typically happens? The person comes in, they get a bunch of x-rays, and it goes into the radiologist's bin. Well, the radiologist has a long bin, and then they start going one by one through that. Imagine at the very bottom of that bin that you had an individual who actually had something very life-threatening. Well, you're not going to get to that until the person gets to that through that image. But what if you had AI and it scanned all those images, and so rather than presenting this long list, it was prioritized so that you actually saw the most critical things first. It's better for patient care, it streamlines care, it makes care more efficient. And we see these inefficiencies throughout the entire system. There's so many ways that we can optimize care. Hasan mentioned access to care. One of the things that we've recognized is that many individuals do not even realize that they have medical conditions. It could be diabetes, it could be cardiovascular disease, or maybe they know they have it, but they don't realize it's actually gotten to the point where it's significantly worse than what they had anticipated. Well, wouldn't it be great if we could simply use AI to image an element that was already taken? Perhaps it's on an x-ray that was already done, perhaps it's something that relates to maybe an eye checkup, and you apply the AI on top of it, and we screen for diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and a whole bunch of other conditions. We could screen large populations and be able to bring them in, improve access to care. So there's so many great ways that technology can assist. And one of the things that we've been thinking a lot about at Microsoft is how a technology infrastructure, a platform that's built on a foundation that allows us to be able to ensure, first and foremost, that the data is secure, that the cyber attacks are mitigated, that we've addressed all the concerns that one has about data security are addressed first and foremost. And then building off on top of that, the ability to create large computation and scale so that we can apply AI, and then putting the AI on top of it. That's the infrastructure that allows us to be able to solve many of these problems. And working in collaboration with M42, BiointelliSense, and a variety of other companies, we might be able to solve some of these big problems.
Thank you so much for that very comprehensive answer there, Dr. David Drew. I think you're absolutely right. It's a no-brainer, which brings me on to the question with Dr. James Mault. Why hasn't this been done sooner? Why is there still resistance? You do mention some of the mitigating the risks, the data security needs to be there, but there is still, when we talk about behavioral change, those two big groups, there is a resistance. What do you think M42 and this collaboration on the advisory board can really achieve together to address this?
Well, I think it's really exciting because when you look at what M42 and the Emirates in general accomplished during COVID, frankly, it was unprecedented. There's nowhere in the world where you had the lowest infection rate, the lowest hospitalization rate, and it was because, as Mr. Hasan just talked about, it's capital to capability and a real commitment to innovation and execution. So here we are at a place where the technology and things like wearables and being able to have something that can capture this data off the human body very easily and continuously instead of having a snapshot every once in a while.
And before you put it back in your pocket,
yes,
do take this moment, do celebrate this, because I know there's many people know of it here, but perhaps our audience joining us. So this that you're actually demonstrating is?
Well, this is something called the Bio Button, and actually, thanks to M42, this is something that's been pioneered here in the Emirates with M42, and some of the early experience with being able to have continuous patient monitoring both in the hospital and at home. But these are a little different because they're medical grade, so it's measuring vital signs and about 20 other parameters on par with the measurements in the intensive care unit. But that's just the starting point, because now, for the first time, having all this rich data flow into the cloud, then you marry that with algorithms. We call it now artificial intelligence, but the truth is, it's the ability for the computer to be able to watch this data from the human body, whether it's in the hospital or at home, and start to see things that we've never seen before because we can see them earlier. And unfortunately, for the last century, healthcare has been very reactive. We wait until someone crashes, or we wait until somebody has a heart attack, and then we call the ambulance, and we're trying to fix something after it's already gotten really bad. So the ability to have early data and have that very inexpensively, and have that very accurately, and have that married with artificial intelligence is now going to help us see things happening and create an opportunity to do something about it, prevent trips to the emergency room, prevent rehospitalization, even be able to see diabetes much, much earlier than we ever saw it before. And anytime you do that, it creates an opportunity to take care of something much more successfully, prevent it from progressing, but also lower the whole kind of cost of the equation, which allows us to have more money to take better care of more people, and it's all a winning proposition, and it starts with the technology and the vision to be able to apply that technology. But as we talked about earlier, helping a healthcare system and healthcare consumers get comfortable that this is actually a better proposition, and that it takes time and trust.
Absolutely, and I loved when you said it's all about innovation and execution. That bio button, if you can just hold it up one more time, this represents in a very tangible form exactly what all three gentlemen are talking about today, exactly what the M42 vision is and the advisory board's mission as well. This is a tangible example of this. I think it deserves a big round of applause just for this technology.
In fact, we're excited to say we've now reached 1 billion patient measurements with this device just over the past year.
That's extraordinary. You know, we could have a session just talking about this bio button, but I'm afraid I know that we are concluding this particular session, and in the next session we're going to have two more, well, actually you're joining us again. We're going to be speaking to another member of the advisory board. But before I release you from the stage, Dr. James, you mentioned the words there about the health industry has traditionally been reactive and not proactive. So let's us be proactive. Let's look at the vision. Let's look at the hope for the future. M42 is all about innovation. So may I please ask my panelists here to end with your vision for the future when it comes to M42, the advisory board, but also hope for humanity. A very small question there. But Hasan, yourself first. Ooh, you can take mine.
Before I answer the question, I just spotted Dr. Toby behind you, and maybe it's just a quick thank you. He has been the force behind the relationship between Abu Dhabi and the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, I'd say, 15 years ago. Thank you. To answer your question, we will continue to pursue our dream, which is the impactful, disruptive dream. And that is mainly to address three things. One is to create more access to people. Two is to reach more people all around the world. And three, to ensure we play a very pivotal role globally in adapting technology and convincing people technology is the way forward.
So I think one of the things we know is that the more that we understand an individual, the more that we understand their circumstance, their environment, and all the factors that contribute to their health, the more that we can be better prepared to deliver more proactive care. The problem is when we think of the current healthcare system, we only see the patient in a clinic visit, which is maybe once or twice a year, or perhaps a hospitalization. And it is not enough information for us to know how an individual is doing. And when a person is out there in their home, we have no clue as to whether or not they're heading in the wrong direction. But with new technologies that allow us to be able to gather that information, with information that is their blueprint, their genomics, with information that allows us to be able to synthesize all of that in real time with the latest artificial intelligence capabilities, we have the ability for the first time ever to truly know whether an individual is heading in the wrong direction. That is the opportunity for us. It's the opportunity for us to be able to embrace the fact that we have the right technologies, we've got the capabilities, and we have the opportunity to be able to solve some of these big problems. We could not have done it before, but now through partnership we can do it.
Fantastic.
Well, I think we're going to look back on this decade and actually these next 5 years. And I'm not overstating this. I think this will be looked back upon 50 years from now as one of the most profound moments in the history of human healthcare, on par with the discovery of immunization and antibiotics, even the X-ray machine. And think about how that changed the entire care of humanity. That moment is here. That moment is also very likely to emanate out of the types of work that is being contemplated and pursued by M42. And that's not an exaggeration. It's something to be very excited about. And I think this is kind of the showcase to the world of what's possible.
I think that's so fantastic, and you're right, it is very exciting. And to be part of this journey for all of us, what a privilege. I did say that was going to be the final comment, but I am going to come back to Hasan, because having Hasan here on the stage, it really is a privilege for all of us. Before I release you and bring on my next panelist, Hasan, your message to the team. We've got the M42 team here, we've got the Abu Dhabi team here, we've got healthcare professionals from across different organizations. What might be a good message to bring us all together? And if I might just ask you to emphasize the Abu Dhabi element of all of this, because really it cannot be overlooked.
Thank you. Maybe before, again, I answer the question, I just spotted another individual, Dr. Sinclair here, who's also part of the advisory committee board, who requires no introduction, another genius that we're benefiting from. Thank you for being part of the committee, Dr. Sinclair. To answer the question, I just spotted something there too. You see, safeguarding your health at the world's safest city. Abu Dhabi has proven to become an oasis of safety, an oasis of innovation, and has welcomed everyone despite their race, their gender, and their belief. What I encourage everyone to do is to embrace that, is to come to Abu Dhabi, share their knowledge with us, and be part of the next disruptive journey together. I want us in 5 to 10 years to look back to today and say, remember, we talked about that, and this is what we achieved together.
That's such an empowering and welcoming message, and we can all embrace this. So thank you so much for your leadership, Hasan. Thank you so much to our advisory board members for joining us. I know we're going to have the second session now, and as you mentioned, David Sinclair is going to be joining us on stage for that as well. Before we leave, may I ask for a photograph? And if I can ask Ashish and our panelists for the next session to join us, this might be a good time for our advisory board members who are present. Let's take a group photograph. And ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause. So Ashish, David Sinclair, fantastic. Ashish, if you'd like to stand next to Hasan here. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, another big round of applause for this breaking news of having our advisory board members here with us. I might just get a quick photo while I have all gentlemen together. Would you like to invite James to, yes, James, please come. If there's anybody else that you, yes. Thank you very much. Another big round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to ask you to stay with me. So we're going to roll straight into our next session. I think we stay on stage because, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hasan. Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.